I would like to welcome our first speaker from the Director General of Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, Aurélien Mornon Afonso, who is going to present how the ESF Plus is bringing opportunities for rural inclusion. So Aurélien, please.
Okay, so I have a very difficult mission today because I need to make sure that you will not take a nap between the presentations. You had to rush up a bit for the lunch. And now I have to introduce you to the European Social Fund Plus and more particularly to the role of the ESF Plus in supporting social inclusion in rural areas. So you might not be so familiar with the European Social Fund Plus, so that's why I will maybe first go back to what is the European Social Fund Plus, what is the role of the Social Fund Plus in general terms. So the European Social Fund Plus was established with the Treaty of Rome. So it's not a little quiz, Treaty of Rome, it's 1957. It means that it's one of the oldest funds that we have in the European Union, as old as the European Union. And it's our key instrument to invest in people. It's part of what we call the cohesion policy funds, together with the European Regional Development Fund and the cohesion fund. So if you look at the treaties, and I was a lawyer myself before, so I always look at the treaties, regulations, all the details. If you look at the treaties, you will see that the mission of the ESF is to improve employment opportunities for workers in the Union, and to contribute to economic, social, and territorial cohesion, together with other funds, as I mentioned before. Concretely, it helps to implement the European Pillar of Social Rights. The European Pillar of Social Rights, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but this is a bit our roadmap, a bit our blueprint at EU level on social actions. We have 20 principles in the European Pillar of Social Rights, and among them you have the access to education, access to essential services, access to qualitative employment. So it's very detailed, and ESF Plus makes sure that all the investments we have make this principle a reality for everyone in Europe, no matter who they are and no matter where they are located. I will go back to this after. And then finally, the European Social Fund Plus also helps in overcoming challenges identified in the framework of the European semester recommendations. So as you know, the Commission drafts some recommendations that are after approved and adopted by the Council. And so the European Social Fund also helps to make sure that all that has been identified, all the challenges, so for instance, if there are high poverty rates in a member state, then this member state will normally have to invest to tackle this high level of poverty rate. And this is possible thanks to the ESF. So if we talk about funds, we need to talk a bit about numbers. So here you have a little overview. So the EU budget for the ESF Plus during this current programming period, 21-27, is of 95 billion euros. In total, if we add also the national contributions, because the DNA of the ESF is shared management, meaning that it's not only the EU acting, but also the member states, national, regional, and local authorities. And for this, so the ESF, the EU budget is complemented by national contributions, by national budgets. And so the total budget for the ESF is of over 140 billion. And we have 700 billion that are dedicated to social innovation. If we look at the priorities, and I will go back to this right after, here you have the numbers for social inclusion because this is the topic of this presentation. So you see 45.5 billion for social inclusion and 5.3 billion for material deprivation. So this is very important. I mentioned these priorities, and I think for you what is interesting maybe is to go a bit further and to mention what we call the specific objectives, so the more detailed level of priorities. And so we have 3 pillars. We have the employment pillar, we have the education and training pillar, and we have the social inclusion one. Under the social inclusion, you have several specific objectives that go from active inclusion measures for persons with disabilities, for instance, but not only. We have the promotion of the socioeconomic integration of third country nationals. We have the equal and timely access to services, including housing. We have the social integration of people at risk of poverty and social exclusion. And finally, we have the specific objective M on addressing material deprivation, including accompanying measures. What does this mean concretely? It means that each member state will have to program measures under these objectives. They don't have to use all these objectives, but they need to make sure to select them when they use the ESF+. So now let's go maybe a bit more on social inclusion, the main topic of today. So in the ESF+ regulation, I told you I was a lawyer before, so I always have the same terrible habits to go back to the regulations. We have what we call thematic constraint, meaning each member state have to use a certain minimum amount of money for some priorities. And for social inclusion, each member state in the European Union has to dedicate 25% of their resources. So that's a lot, and on average, member states invest 31%, so it's a bit higher. Then we have another thematic concentration on top, included, in this 25%. We have this thematic concentration for some member state that had a child poverty rate that was higher than the EU average, and in this member state, they need to invest 5% of their ESF+ resources on average. Not only the member states that are concerned by this requirement, but also all the others, all member states invest 7%. And finally, on top of this, we have a thematic concentration of 3% to address material deprivation, to support the most deprived persons. And here again, you see the average is 5.5%, higher than the minimum. And in some member states, we go beyond this because we go beyond 8%. So for instance, the case for Luxembourg, France, Romania, and Cyprus. So now that I mentioned these thematic constraints, here you have a little breakdown of the investments per specific objective. And here you can really see what are the main priorities, let's say, for the member states. So on the first rank, you'll see the active inclusion measures. And on the second, the access to services. This is not surprising because it's true that the DNA of the ESF is to make sure that people have access to employment. And so under these active inclusion measures, you have a lot of measures concerning, for instance, non-discrimination at work. You have some measures on making sure that all people can access the labor markets. And the Director General of DG Agri mentioned this morning that it was important to make sure that we had good budgets, good jobs in rural areas. This is true, but we need to have good jobs everywhere. And so DSF contributes to this. So now I will maybe give more examples and be a bit more concrete. So first, in terms of achievements, I have to tell you something a bit disappointing. DSF Plus is not the most territorial fund that we have at the EU level. I would say it's even the least. The issue that we have is that we don't have a lot of indicators, so it's very difficult for us to track how much the investments of the ESF are in rural areas. But what we have is that we have a common indicator that allows us to know how many people, how many participants we reached in rural areas. And in this case, you can see here that for the current programming period until the end of 2024, we reached 1.4 million people. So that's in total 18% of the participants to ESF Plus funded projects. And of course, this is an average. Here you see that in some member states, Denmark, Croatia, Hungary, Ireland, Poland, Slovenia, and Slovakia, it's more than 40%, almost half of the participants of this country were reached in rural areas. Then, what is the main tool that we have in rural areas? This, I think you are, most of you familiar with what it is, CLLDs and ITIs, Community-Led Local Development and Integrated Territorial Investments. So I will maybe not go a lot in detail, but just to mention two important things. First of all, the member states can use what we call territorial targets. And so in this case, the interesting one for us is the one on rural areas, but of course we have others, mountainous areas, we have coastal areas, we have several ones. And here you have a bit of a breakdown of the ESF Plus investments for the member states that are using CLLDs and ITIs and that have selected the rural area targets. So this is just a partial overview. but still, I think it was important to mention it. Now here you have some examples of what CDs and ITIs are. So we have one example from Czech Republic and another one from Spain. So for the example from Czech Republic, it's quite interesting. Maybe two important things to mention. First of all, the role here is really to, the objective is here to address social exclusion in rural areas. And one important thing is to build community cohesion. This is something quite recurrent in the examples that we have. In most of the member states, we see that a lot of actions, they have this component of making sure that the rural communities remain cohesive. And this is, of course, crucial, especially at the moment when we talk about how to tackle loneliness, how to tackle also depopulation. I think that community cohesion is quite important. And then from the example in Spain, you'll see here there were several objectives, but the main one it was to foster employment opportunities for vulnerable target groups. Now, I really wanted to finally mention an example that you might not be so familiar with. Not all of you. It's not coming from community-led local developments or integrated territorial investments. It's coming from what we call the Social Innovation Plus initiative. So some part of the DSF is implemented under direct management, and it's what we call the Social Innovation Plus initiative. It's a Lithuanian agency who is in charge of implementing it. And this Lithuanian agency, basically, it has two functions. The first one is to promote social innovation. And for this, we have what we call communities of practice to make sure that we have the right people around the table, that we have managing authorities, implementing bodies coming and discussing what are the main challenges that they are facing in their daily life. And then they come and they present to the others, okay, this happened and we overcome these challenges by doing this and that, and it's really a knowledge sharing platform. On top of this, the second part of the Social Innovation Plus initiative is what we call the grants for scaling up innovative projects. And in this case, we have this Beautiful Bees project that is now running in Spain, Italy, and Lithuania. And in this project, I will be very quick because Patricia is looking at me with very scary eyes. But in this project, the idea was really to empower young rural women. And it was inspired by a project that was targeting first urban women, so women in cities. And then they replicated this idea to rural areas, and there is a whole, the project is really nice, so I really invite you to scan the QR code to learn more about the project, but also to learn more about the Social Innovation Plus initiative. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of time, but if you have any questions, I will be in the room and I will be pleased to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aurélien, for this comprehensive presentation about ESF, all the opportunities that it brings when it comes to social inclusion, to the CLLD, but not only, and concrete example as the Beautiful Bees that they started recently, and that we will be attentive to it to see what the Committee of Practices are doing. So now we're going to hear about concrete examples that have been funded, some of them actually through ESF, but not only. There are many opportunities there, as Aurélien said. So I'm going to welcome our first speaker, Irene Almazán from Fundación Cepaim in Spain, who is going to present the program New Trials, Socio-Integration of Newcomers in Rural Areas. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having us here today. My name is Irene Almazán, and I work for Fundación Cepaim, which is a Spanish NGO with more than 30 years of experience working to foster more inclusive societies. So we work mainly with vulnerable people, migrants and refugees. So today I'm here to talk about one of our rural projects, which is Nuevos Senderos, that in English could be translated into new paths or new trails. It's a project that seeks to foster social and labor integration of people, mainly migrants in rural areas in Spain. So this project started as a pilot project called Nexus in 2002. It proved to have a pretty successful methodology that was worth continuing, and that's why it's been running for more than 20 years now under the name Nuevos Senderos. And it has been co-funded by the European Social Fund. And in fact, it got to a point that we actually had different versions of the same project, of the same methodology, up to 7 different ones running simultaneously, because they were funded by the rural government, the local authorities, the national government. So as you can see here, I don't know if you're familiar with Spain, but we've implemented this project in 16 different provinces, in 8 autonomous communities. It's important to highlight here that we could divide those regions into 2 categories. On the one hand, we have regions with big cities and a high influx of migrants, like in Madrid. And then we have other regions where we have teams that are more in more depopulated areas that focus more on prospecting for job and housing options to welcome and receive people from the cities. So we could say that in this case, migration is a bridge between the increasing big cities and the shrinking rural areas. So the project could be divided into 4 phases that help for the social and labor integration of people in rural areas. So we start working directly with the municipalities and the territories. They need to be involved from the very beginning. That's essential, and that's why we sign collaboration agreements with them. We work a lot with the municipalities with less than 5,000 inhabitants. And then in terms of the participants, we conduct different interviews so that we really get to know them, their interests, their skills, also make sure they're really committed to the project and to moving to the rural area later on. And we provide training, and I think it's interesting to mention that we provide training on rural knowledge. This is compulsory for every single participant. We give a specific training to make sure they're aware of what living in the rural area in Spain means, so that they can better understand and make a better informed decision once they move to the rural area. And we can also manage expectations. So we continuously try to find job offers that go together with housing options. So if there's no housing options, then the job offer for us is incomplete, and then we don't share it with the participants. So if we find a job offer and housing option, we share it together with a brief study. Let's say it's we attach study with some information about the municipality and the surrounding area, so that the participants really get to know the rural context of the place if they actually decide to move there. If they are interested, we organize a visit. Both parties get to meet each other and ask questions, and then they have a reflection time. And if both parties agree, then we go ahead with the move. The project covers the move costs. And then for the last phase, we do the follow-up and monitoring, sometimes some cultural mediation, and we also do some awareness-raising activities such as exhibitions and workshops, etc. So I wanted to share with you some figures from the last 5 years. As you can see, we've worked with more than 70 nationalities, most of them third country nationals, and we've supported more than 1,000 family units. We've worked with 353 municipalities, most of them with less than 5,000 inhabitants, and Here are some final thoughts and comments. As I was mentioning before, for us it's very important for participants to make an informed and consensual decision among all family members. That's very important. It's difficult, but it's an important decision. So that's why we understand that every single family member should be in it. And then just to conclude, as part of the project, we also publish a magazine with some articles on rural areas and migration that's called La Artesa. And we have different people contributing to the magazine. And I thought it was interesting also to mention that this project, Nuevos Senderos, was included in the Welcoming Spaces interactive map. Welcoming Spaces was a Horizon 2020 project that compiled more than 160 welcoming initiatives for migrants, especially in shrinking areas, specifically in those 5 countries. Still running, we're always open to receive more ideas of initiatives in other countries as well. And I thought it was interesting to share this with you. And we also compiled some of those initiatives in this report because we think it's inspiring and we can learn from each other. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Irene, for presenting the new trials, the Nuevos Senderos, and navigating us through the process that you've been testing now for a good number of years, or replicating across Spain. Integration of newcomers and a sense of belonging will be one of the topics that we will be speaking during the discussion later on, and Irene will be around in case anybody is more curious about it. But now I would like to welcome the next speaker, Brian Smyth, National Coordinator of Social Farming Ireland, to present the initiative as a community-driven tool for community inclusion.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll give a brief input on our experience of running a national social farming network in Ireland. So that's what happens on the farm. It's people who are excluded for one reason or another can participate and be active out on the farm. So what is it? So the placement like that is a planned, person-centred, outcome-focused support placement on an ordinary farm with the farmer. It's non-clinical, community-based. It's using the natural assets of the farm, including the person, the farmer, and the family, the environment itself. So it's an eco-interaction. The activities, so there's a lot of different things happen on farms. So that's the work activities, the general activities on farm, whatever they are, and also the community around the farm. Farms interact quite a bit in their community so that people can take part in and participate in community. So it's about people, place, and participation. Again, there's the type of people then that are involved. Those with disabilities, and that can be intellectual, physical, acquired, mental ill health and recovery from various types. People coming out of the justice system, so in the courts, probation, or out of the prisons. People experiencing homelessness, older people and those with dementia, asylum seekers, migrants, refugees, and people who are long-term employed. So any cohort of people living close or around the farm. This particular picture is of young people who are finding it difficult to fit in school, and so they're part of the school. The school commissioned the farmer to support them for 1 day a week. Okay, who are we? I work with an NGO charity based in the Northwest. We were a LAG, we continue to be involved with the LAG. We have a wide variety of programs, mainly rural development, social inclusion. Social Farming Ireland is a national funded project by the Department of Agriculture. So we support this person-centred approach. So it's about the individual and their progress and their lives and the choices that they make. So it's an individual choice-based approach guided by values and principles of social justice, equality, integration. Obviously the UN Convention on the Rights, because many of the people that we interact with are people with disabilities. I suppose 40% of the people who actually take part in social farming have a disability. And things like the UN Convention on the Rights of People, so that they're participating in choosing and that they have access to these things. The Sustainable Development Goals, and also contributing to national policies and European goals as well. So these are ordinary farmers. They work with these people. We've put in place a sort of quality standard because safety, safeguarding, there's history in Ireland and other places people have been taken advantage of and in terms of work and not being paid properly. So those kind of things are dealt with in safeguarding, in making sure it's safe, and of course vetting, reference checking, proper insurance so that if anything does happen that that's covered. So there's a quality process to it. And obviously farmers are paid then for the time that they commit and the support that they provide. And that's the model that we use. So it provides new opportunities for everybody, the farmers included, for the community to be more inclusive and open, because many of these people would be in clinical settings otherwise. So it opens a new opportunity. And obviously this is it's based on the natural environment, engaging people. So plants and animals are the main attraction to get people to engage, and the environment the farm is based in. So it's an eco-service provided by farmers. So you can see that nature-based support. So people come with different needs, but the farm can provide the support and the solution. So and the rural areas can provide these supports and solutions. I think there was somebody said this morning, you know, we can certainly identify the challenges in rural areas. We're coming, you know, but the rural area can provide solutions to inclusion and to really good quality inclusion. So the key elements are there. Each of these elements, so it's the natural surrounding, you know, everybody understands that when you're in the environment, close to nature, can reduce stress, anxiety, improve attention, restore people psychologically. There's a social context that you're interacting with people, the farmer, the other people. There's small groups on these farms, 3-4 people, the community connection, and then there's meaningful activities. So people are there doing something that's crucial. So taking care of a newborn animal, planting seeds, watching them grow. So it's meaningful. It gives value to the person who does that. And these are all part of the process. So there's people celebrating Christmas on a social farm involved, and this is outdoor, not indoor. It rains quite a bit in Ireland, so you definitely have to have something to do indoors. So, you know, and it reconnects people with food. We had some young people that didn't know eggs came from the back end of a chicken, but they were taking the eggs home, cooking omelettes, and understood much more about the food system and what farming is like and about. So again, that's reiterating what I've already said. You know, people's mental health and well-being improves. They have better social connection. We have a lot of people who come out here, and farmers will say, "Oh, people weren't able to, you know, move as quickly." Farmers can move very quickly. They're fitter. So people's physical health improves as well. And of course, there's a possibility to learn an awful lot. So what's the typical farm like? You know, we have a huge diversity, about 200 farmers in the network at this stage, 160 of them are active. I suppose what you could say is these are people who are environmentally conscious, they're altruistic, inclusive, they're people, and the scale and size of the farm doesn't really matter, it's the individual, their outlook on life. There'd be 25% or more of them would be organic, many of them involved in regenerative farming practices, very connected in community, so they're involved in sport, religious activities, spirituality, and that kind of thing. So that's the kind of nature of the people. So it's more the nature of the person than the size of the farm. We have large farms, very small farms, horticulture based. So it doesn't really matter, it's the nature of the person. So again, an awful lot of it is about the connection between people and themselves, the environment and the place. Because every single farm, of those 200, there's none of them the same. So you can experience something different in every single farm. How does the European Social Fund in particular support this? And I suppose of those participants who are coming to those farms, we have 2 programs in Ireland where they're funded. I'm going to just flick through these. These will be on the presentation, which you will have access to on the website or be shared afterwards. But one of these is the Social Inclusion Community Activation Programme, of which our company delivers along with another 45 groups who are members of this network here. It's the Local Development Companies Network in Ireland. They participate here on a European basis through the LEADER programme, because many of us are associated with LAGs, our LAGs as well. So this empowers people, individuals, through 2 various objectives, and it funds funds the organisations to support people in inclusion, training and skills. So that has been supporting and helping some people to participate on social farms. So that money goes into the farmers' pockets. They provide the support and services to help these people progress with their goals. There's a particular plan on every farm for every placement, so the person sets their goals and the farmer's there helping to deliver, and it can be very varied across those benefits. So you can see there's a dairy farmer who has some participants, and it's a skills and learning approach that young person is there for. The other program is workability, ESF funded, and this is to support people on inclusive pathways to employment. We implement this program ourselves as well under the workability Leitrim heading there. So we work with a cohort of people, and the focus there is on getting them to employment. Many of these people are very distant from the labour market, have quite significant challenges, but social farming, a placement on a social farm as part of that pathway, pre-employment, is very, very useful, because they can understand, taking direction, getting up, getting food ready to go out to work. So it's a very much like a workplace scenario, which allows them to build the confidence, skills and capacity to take on work down the line. So this program helps people to do that, and workability is supporting people to participate on social farms as well as part of their pathway. Not everybody chooses that pathway, but for some people that's an important part. They're interested in the various elements of the farm can offer in terms of employment or progress to employment. So obviously social farming can deliver that sense of achievement and valued social roles for people, so that they can feel a sense of value in what they do and in achievement. Those 3 guys made those footstools on the farm. So they got involved in the process of planning it, purchasing material, measuring it out, cutting it, putting it together. Obviously one of them has 3 legs, so everybody has their own way. But they enjoyed that, took them home, and that's what social farming is about, getting people set up on that path to improve their lives, and the farmers making that happen. So what does this mean for rural development in particular? Well, the farms that we have now are multifunctional. They have a new source of income. They're doing something different in inclusion, community integration, along with the environmental service, the food production, the other things they do, improving water quality. So these are farmers that are innovating. They're supplying community health and social care support in a very different and new way. So they're social engineers, and it's to provide inclusion, because in rural Ireland it's a very dispersed population, so there isn't the scale to do this on a broader scale. So farmers are doing it very much on the basis. Somebody said to me at one stage, it's putting the culture back into agriculture, connecting farms with people and their community, highlighting their relevance in the community and in the rural economy. So it's improving the sustainability of those smaller farms in a rural economy and providing service to people who wouldn't otherwise access that kind of support. And the main asset here is the farmers themselves. It's already there. You don't really have to do very much. You just have to help them release that asset within themselves, and they find it's hugely beneficial for them and their families. So it's investment in people, in inclusion, and building social capital. So it provides all those new opportunities, new experiences for everybody, farmer, participants, and the community itself. And our future perspectives there, we see demand growing. Farmers are responding in many different ways. Support is increasing from our Department of Agriculture, who fund the core cost of delivering the network. And we've just had support from a Peace Plus project, which is just about to commence. So that's European funding as well, from the Peace Plus programme cross-border, because we live right on the border with the edge of Europe, with Northern Ireland. So it is beneficial for everybody. And of course, we did contribute, along with others involved in social farming, care farming across Europe, to the European Commission CAP Network report on social farming and innovation. That finished up, I think, in early 2024. So the report is at that link. So what does all this mean? I suppose it's very much nature-based, eco-service provided by farmers for people in their own community who are challenged, who are distant from society, and it helps to reintegrate them and create inclusion. Diversity is a mix, and inclusion is making that mix work. And in fact, in this photograph, you have 3 people, so you can't really tell who the farmer is. But that's also on an area close to a lake where there's a very rare orchid. So you can't see that there. But, you know, and it doesn't really matter whether it's the environment or people. Diversity is very important, and it must be supported with inclusion to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, for trying to summarize what you are doing of over 150 farms all across Ireland with this people-place-based system that is in place in the different placements of the farms. So as a third speaker, we have to apologize, but actually the person who would intervene got sick with COVID, which seems something like the past, but she was like deeply sorry. She could not make it. She could not travel, of course, because his test is positive and was sick. But we thought it was essential to bring something around gender when we comes to have this conversation on inclusive rural communities. And therefore we have a video. We know it's not the same, but we're going to have a video from Blanca Casares from AEIDL, Brussels, about grass sealing women-led innovation for rural transformation, which is an Horizon project, and the video is going to tell you more about it. And if you have an interest in the project, in getting to know the consortium or something, my colleague Raquel or myself, we will be happy to put you in contact or to collect any questions you might have. So we'll go for the video.
My name is Blanca Casares. I'm leading the work on policy in the Horizon Europe project Grass Sealing. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to share some insights at the Rural Pact Conference. Grass Sealing, this 3 years Horizon Europe project, is a multi-actor project which aims to empower rural women and increase the number of socio-ecological innovations led by women in agriculture, in the rural economy and rural communities. We follow a participatory action research approach with 25 partners, 9 living labs, and 72 rural innovators participating on them. The focus and level of women innovation in the grass sealing living labs varies. While some initiatives are still emerging, others are already consolidated projects. Beyond the agriculture sector, several labs showcase non-agriculture innovations. In the Living Lab of Croatia, you can know a women entrepreneur developing bio-based products and traditional crafts. In Lithuania, women led a community initiative that strengthened rural social capital. In Scotland, an innovator runs social enterprises providing childcare, elder meals, and cultural hubs. Together, their stories prove that rural innovation goes beyond farming, fostering entrepreneurship, culture, and social inclusion. Here I present in more detail 3 inspiring women out of 72 women in our living labs who are breaking barriers and shaping the future of rural communities across Europe. They are just an example. Aileen Barron from Ireland is transforming how agribusiness speaks to the world through green agri-marketing. Rosangela in Italy brings culture to the heart of rural life with Confabulare, using books and exploration of landscapes to connect children to their rural roots and imagination. And Mark Killen in Norway, through her pastry business, Flunalik, shows us the power of creativity and entrepreneurship, building something sweet, local, and deeply rooted in her community. What unites then is not just their success, but their resilience, each of them with more than a decade of consolidated projects, but always transforming, adapting, and pushing forward. What we have learned so far in the grass ceiling project, first, we see important gaps in data and in how different gender regimes impact rural innovation across the EU. The diversity needs to better understanding. To address this, we have generated new data which help us to understand both men and women entrepreneurs more clearly. We have also trained 72 innovators across 9 countries, and this has been a two-way process, not only training them, but also learning from their experience and from the organizations supporting them. Through this work, we have gained a better understanding of how women innovation paths are and their potential. We have also benchmarked policy documents to see whether they genuinely integrate gender equality or whether they sideline it. Some specific findings stand out. Women brings a distinctive approach to innovation, but they need mentors and network to thrive. Access to land remains a major barrier. Women rarely inherit land, yet they are often leaders in regenerative farming. Their entrepreneurship activities tend to focus on small-scale enterprises, which highlights the need for better access to microfinance. Rural areas where community infrastructure is often weak. In these areas, women are driving the creation of social enterprises that respond to different local needs. At AEIDL, we have mapped the European political landscape to identify opportunities for advancing gender equality in rural areas. You can find in this slide a key momentum from the approval of current CAP strategic plan in 2023 to the publication of the new multi-financial framework last July. It means 2 years of many changes and political development. Looking ahead, the key opportunities lie in articulating a clear vision, a roadmap for gender equality, shaping the post-2027 national regional partnership plans for EU funds, and even taking advantage of the flexibility within the current CAP to amend the strategic plans and redesign interventions and budget. It will also be essential to transpose the gender equality strategy into national strategies and to link our work with priorities such as addressing brain drain and the population, enabling a just transition, supporting smart rural approaches, and ensuring generational renewal. Finally, the national social climate plans provide another important opening for embedding this perspective. At policy level, this summer, we published our roadmap on policy recommendations. You can find the deliverable on our website. The recommendations are divided into 3 milestones. For 2025, the focus is on laying the groundwork. Actions like establishing a Women in Agricultural platform, as announced in the Vision for Agriculture and Food, aligning the CAP with gender equality, or redefining the innovation concept. By 2030, you see different actions. The recommendation suites toward scaling up and strengthening several measures. These include enforcing gender-responsive CAP guidance, expanding monitoring systems, supporting rural innovation labs, mentoring women in agriculture and STEM, and ensuring EU governance becomes more inclusive. The aim here is to systematic integration and capacity building. And finally, for 2035, the focus is on long-term transformation. Actions include mainstreaming gender in demographic policies, bridging the rural digital divide, tailoring family support services, mandatory budget and public and private funding available, and ensuring foresight tools and education systems adopt the gender lens. We are now working on the last months of the project on a toolkit to strengthen gender-sensitive monitoring and accountability. It is under design to help policymakers. The toolkit is built around three main components. First, a gender proofing template. Second, a gender benchmarking tool. And third, a rural women innovation compass, which is essentially a data strategy that will make a proposal. We will make a proposal to the EU Rural Observatory. Last slide, just to present the forum, the European Policy Forum, which is designed to bring a pan-European perspective, creating a space for knowledge exchange. In short, we are combining research, dialogue, and practice to drive real transformation. We have had different activities along these years. An important forum session was held in March, where we showcase national case studies and examples using EU funds. All materials can be found on the website. I invite you to go deeper in the insight of this session. An upcoming session will focus on tools by the end of this year to prepare the proposal for the EU Rural Observatory on indicators for gender. And finally, the forum is also connected to wider EU initiatives, such as the specific community group on the rural path for women in rural areas, where discussions continue and will grow, and we invite you to join. Thank you for your attention, and I remain available via email for any further question and discussion. Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, you can you can make an applause, even if it's unfortunately not present, which is really a pity. But I hope that at least you found it informative. It's a project that is coming to an end, so it's bringing now a lot of outcomes, and there will be a valuable, and it's already elaborating on recommendations that could be perhaps part of the discussion that we are going to have today in the second part of the session. Thanks again a lot to the speakers, Brian, Irene, Aurélien, for the effort of making all these presentations and sharing your experience and your expertise about a very relevant topic, which is not easy to address because it covers a lot of intersectionalities many times.